Hello everybody, welcome to Blue Bike and Doors channel, and we're here with Janet for the West Georgia Pet Rescue. I knew I was going to mess that name up. So maybe you can tell us a little about the history. I know we done went outside and talked, and we should have been recording outside, but the wind was blowing a little bit, but we've been talking about how she got started and the process and all, so I'll let her tell you the history from it, how it got started and all.
Okay, so once again, like he said, I'm Janet Gimby. So the West Georgia Pet Rescue was established in 2003. Before it was at the Bowden Animal Clinic, at a smaller facility here in Bowden, Georgia, until Dr. Matthew McCord decided to expand the facility. So then he moved his facility over to what is now Bowden Animal Hospital, which is double the size of the clinic that it used to be. And so in 2003, he established the rescue to help at the time, a lot of animals that were being found and didn't have homes, as well as, possibly owners that couldn't afford to keep their animals or couldn't for one thing or another. So that was in 2003. Later on with years, in 2013, Dr. Emily Kaiser came into the picture because she was hired as a veterinarian as well, and she was able to help the rescue be established even more to the outside parts. So, and then I joined the team in 2018 to help promote it more as well.
So, okay. You touched on the volunteers and all. That's probably some of the bigger aspects of getting started and all.
Yeah, so one of the main things about the rescue is the main volunteers are the doctors and the veterinary technicians and the kennel technicians, because we're the first ones to see how the dog's doing, what it needs, and stuff like that. So veterinarian, volunteering their time and their efforts to make sure the dog's okay, as well as the veterinary technicians giving them the vaccines as well that they need, and then the kennel is giving them their love and their attention that they need whenever they're getting fed.
So how many pets do you usually go through the rescue of, say, a month or whatever?
Oh gosh.
I bet you have high and low times.
Yeah, so there's a lot of times where there's a period where we only have about four to five, give or take, in which half of them are at least in a foster home, because we don't have exactly like a huge amount of room that we can provide here at Bowden Animal Hospital. The rescue solely really relies on the foster care, so the animals can also get used to that home environment, so they're not always stuck in a cage. So that's one of the benefits about foster homes, is that it gives them an opportunity to kind of be already getting used to that outer world there. And then there's also other times where all of a sudden we get like 10 emails or 10 messages per day saying, hey, we can't keep our dog, or hey, we found a dog, can you help us? So it's one of those things where we do have a capacity, sadly, and we can't be accepting every single dog. So it's kind of one of those things that we have to kind of not necessarily pick a priority, but kind of like be really realistic about the dogs that we can care for, sadly. So.
Yeah. So that brings me to, what's your area for? We say West Georgia, but I've been watching on the Facebook page, and I've seen some of the people post messages coming all the way from Atlanta.
Yeah.
And you said before you worked with other rescuers or animal hospital or whatever. They need to go all the way up New Jersey.
Yeah.
So I was like, what is that, New Jersey?
Yeah, so our primary area is the West Georgia area, so like Carroll County, kind of districts like that. We have some of our clinic employees do live in Alabama. I live in Alabama. Or evil. I'm kidding. No, but it's one of those things.
Let me stop you on that. When she went into Alabama, Auburn. If you're born in Alabama, they can put on your birth certificate either Alabama or Georgia. You got to pick one. You can't be Tennessee or anybody. So that's just not common. Anyway, so let's get back. I just thought I had to mention that.
So like you said, one of the things we do focus in like the Carroll County area and kind of certain areas within the West Georgia area. But we always have those cases where we do have to cross the state line and like get some dog. We've had dogs here where they're from Wedowee, Alabama, because one of our doctors goes to the lakes and they see a lot of dogs that need care. And Wedowee, Alabama has an animal shelter, but they don't actually have like a clinic. And so they actually also have their capacity max as well. So that's why it kind of comes to us like, you know, if we're able to help, we'll help them. Sometimes, a lot of the times, even if we can't help them, we try to. So sometimes whenever dogs are very scared, they run away a lot. So thankfully we've had a lot of, or like Dr. Emily, where she actually goes to where these places are and like either feeds them every other day to gain their trust and stuff like that. So like I said, we want to say it's the whole West Georgia area, but sometimes we get limited to that, you know, because of the distance and stuff like that. Because most of the time we don't have a specific area where we keep the dogs, so we try to kind of limit. We don't try to limit, but we are limited to where we can reach. So.
What about you get an animal in, cat, dog? I'm sure you don't do horses or anything.
No.
It's all the smaller animal. So when you get an animal come in, what is the steps that you take to see if it's going to be able to adopt? Or I guess first part would be health of the animal and go.
So one of the things, so like if a dog is found, one of the first things we try to make sure is whether they have a microchip, because sometimes some dogs run away, you know, either by season or not. And what I mean by that is that if they're neutered or not, spayed, neutered. So we try to make sure, we try to confirm whether they have a microchip or not. From there, we kind of have to wait about 2 to 3 weeks, give or take, to give them the people, the owners, if they have any, that gap to see, you know, hey, I'm looking for my dog. And kind of give them that time to, just in case they haven't noticed, here's your dog. And we promote that, you know, hey, dog was found, or such and such was rescued. So we give them that at least 2 to 3 weeks. From there, the days that come in, they, you know, we do the microchip, and then the veterinarians do their checkup, making sure they don't have any injury, and then like if they have worms, make sure we deworm them, stuff like that. And then if after that 2-3 week process, then we decide whether it needs to be vaccinated. So it's more of like if it's a puppy, then we start giving them their puppy vaccines, so they can get strong immune system. And then from there, we, for example, the kennel technicians, we kind of evaluate their character, whether they're aggressive or not, or they're very timid. So that's where, then that's the second process of where we try to start working with them with their character and see how we can kind of help them out to be less scared. And then from there, once we know for sure they have been spayed and neutered and they have all the vaccines that they need to, such as rabies and stuff like that, then we start the adoption process. So typically it's honestly about minimum a month until they're actually able to get adopted, unless that they need to have any kind of surgery, which then that expands into a longer process for the same time that we need to make sure that they fully recover from that surgery too.
Okay, so we went through this process of getting the animal comes in and you spray and neuter, as Bob Barker used to say. From Price is Right.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the first thing popping on when you said do you ever have animals that you can't adopt?
Yes, sadly, yes. There has been animals that can't be adopted because either they're a little bit too old, and we know statistically, you know, their adoption rate isn't as high. So, for example, Dr. Emily, she, I think she's really planning to actually have a home rescue to those older dogs.
A nursing home for dogs.
Basically, honestly, that's really what
if I could have, I would, you know. What about somebody comes in to adopt? What is the process, or how do you determine to say adoption? How, you know, I'm pretty sure there's people that come in that not qualified to be an adopted.
Yeah. So usually what we try to do, a lot of our applicants actually, they message us online. So whenever they do, or even in here, but we guide them to a pre-adoption application form. So that form is more of an insight of like, what dogs have you had, how many dogs, you know, like, do you still care for them, and if you do, you're veterinarian. So it's more of those questions of like, okay, so if your dog, the dog that you adopt has some bad habits or something, how will you deal with this? Kind of situations where we want to make sure that, you know, those people actually do care for the dog. So we review the application between a couple of people of us, and typically because we're only volunteers, it takes us at least a week and a half to 2 weeks to review the application, so everyone's on the same page. So once we review the application, we call the veterinarians because we want to confirm that what you're saying is true. We have had a couple of applicants where it's a lot of false information. So those are the applicants where we do decline for that same reason of, you know, we message them, why is this not correct? And then they never message back. So it's because one of those things, those were mainly the people that are declined for that same reason, that whenever we ask them about confirmation, they don't confirm at all. So that's the process, and then once, you know, they are approved to adopt, we set up a meeting time, so a meet and greet to see how the dog interacts with a human. And so from there, honestly, most of the time, whenever the group meet and greet happens, they tend to go ahead and be able to take the dog home. So that's when the adoption happens. So typically the adoption fee varies with the dog. If a dog has needed to have a little bit extra surgery than other dogs, then the adoption fee is a little bit higher to kind of balance the fees that we have here at the clinic. And then from there, that's really just a happy ending after that.
Hopefully. Maybe they was to come in and wanting this certain grant, but you try to steer them to another pet, or
Yes.
you'd say this dog would, and hey, this one just, you know, clicks sometimes.
Yeah. So it has happened to where people ask for a certain dog and they tell us what they expect of a dog, and then they tell us this is the dog we want. And because we already know how the dog is, we're like, you know, maybe that's not the dog you really want for your situation. And so we introduce them to other dogs that are more potential with their character, if that makes sense. Because I know we've had a couple of people who are like, I want a dog who will play with, you know, babies, or who are really good with kids. Do you think such and such a dog are good with that? So then, because we already know the dogs, we're like, you know, maybe that dog's not okay with that, like being around kids, but we have about 2 or 3 that will, we know for sure, be okay. So that's how we tend to guide them to other dogs. And then at that point, it's really up to the people if they decide to adopt them. So.
Yeah. So, like I said, there's a cost involved with all this, and I didn't mention that y'all are a 501c3. So any donation is tax deductible.
Yes.
And if somebody maybe can't monetary, but you can volunteer and stuff like that. So if somebody was just want to come in, give a weekend or however you do it, you know, what are some stuff that?
So for our volunteers, what I try to encourage volunteers to do is, some of these dogs, because they're so used to being in a cage, they kind of forget to have their manners. So that's one of the things I encourage volunteers when they come in is, hey, you know, just walk this dog around the clinic for about 10-15 minutes. So where they know how to heel, they know how to, you know, actually have leash manners and not act crazy. So that's one of the things we try to encourage whenever volunteers are here, is to help us help the dogs learn their manners, as well as giving them as much love as possible. You see a dog, all right, you love it to death, so they don't lose that little affection that they give us, you know, at the same time, because as the kennel technicians, they can't always be beside the dog 24/7 because they have other working duties. So we encourage our volunteers to do that. Like, you know what, you're here for our dog, you know, you love it as much as you can, you know, show it affection. So at the same time, the dog can learn to lose his trust issues and kind of be more okay with anyone touching them.
So you need volunteers and foster homes or whatever. And I'm pretty sure foster home leads up to adoption or whatever.
Sometimes, thankfully, they do sometimes.
How many volunteers do you have, or
For the foster homes, so there's a lot, honestly, for the foster homes. For the same time, there's certain foster homes that only do whenever we have puppies come in, because like the last batch that left to New Jersey, I believe we had about 24 puppies leave up north.
Wow.
Yeah. So Dr. Emily, I know she fostered 11 of them, and then another lady fostered 5 of them, and then the other lady fostered, I think, about 9 of them.
Wow.
So it's one of those things where like certain foster homes prefer to have different types of rescues. So some foster homes prefer to have the puppies, and other foster homes prefer to have the other dogs. So it's one of those things where we already know that they are the foster homes, so we kind of know that they're not going to adopt as well. But so there has happened to where we had foster homes and they adopted the dog, thankfully.
Yeah.
So, foster failures.
You keep saying they travel up to Jersey, so that's travel expenses up there.
Yeah, so
people volunteer to either drive from here to New Jersey, which is 1,000 miles maybe.
Yeah, so we are partnered with Middletown Humane Society in New Jersey, up north. Thankfully, we've been able to create this partnership to where we're able to send our smaller breed animals up north. The adoption rate is way higher than it is here for those dogs, thankfully. And so the fee itself, we try to travel at least every 2 months, give or take. Some might end up quicker because we get filled up. And yeah, that's a whole, like, our volunteers that do that, they get here at about 4:30 in the morning. We load up the dogs, and by 6 the latest, they're off to go.
Up there and then bring bigger dogs.
Exactly. They don't even stay the night. If anything, they go drop off the dogs and then head back home. And that's one of the things that we do admire and we appreciate a lot
awesome.
for our volunteers.
And like I said, you volunteer or whatever. What are some other needs that you need here?
So, yeah, our volunteers are our number one support. We also do ask donations for the beds. A lot of these dogs, they don't know what a bed is sometimes, and so whenever they find out, they're either too excited and they rip them up so easily,
Yep.
or they kind of stay away from it. So there's different types of ways to actually be able to help the West Georgia Pet Rescue.
Somebody that's consult just to make beds for you.
Yeah, exactly. It's those small things. Like even with a toy, I know one of our rescues, Agnes, she loves toys to the point where she'll rip them up in like 30 minutes.
Yeah, we got one saying like Squeaky.
Yes.
2 minutes and it's gone.
Exactly.
Squeaky got it.
Exactly. So it's one of those things where it's like almost any type of donation matters. Thankfully, we have such a supportive community where we get like dog food donations every week almost, and as well as blankets and stuff like that. So.
And to donate is the West Georgia. How can people get in touch with you or whatever? That's what we should go into now.
On Facebook, you can find us as West Georgia Pet Rescue. Our email is westgapettrescue@gmail. And then that is linked to our PayPal. So if you use that email, you can PayPal us any amount of money, as well as on Facebook, you can donate.
And all these links, all what she's saying is going to be down in the description box. And two, there's rescues all around. So maybe you don't want to help search your area and find an area in your head, because she said they work with other rescues around areas and.
Absolutely.
So I was shocked when she said they send the little dogs up, bring us the big dogs.
Yeah. So one of the main other rescues we try to help, we are partner with is, like I said, Middletown Humane Society, and that's in New Jersey, and we also are partnered with Hickory Level Pet Rescue, Hickory Level Hound Rescue. So that one's located specifically more in Carrollton, and they're basically like us as well, because they're dependent on their foster homes. But I know part of that rescue helps more with huskies, and the other part helps with like the smaller animals. So, like I said, there's a rescue for almost every breed. Yeah.
So y'all hold breeds.
Ours is more of like whatever you find, we'll try to help. So.
We keep talking about dogs because I'm a dog person. Did you get cats into it?
Yeah,
And
we
cats
get-
are probably, they so, you know, if a kitten ain't have human contact first, so
Yeah.
long they turn feral. And
Yeah,
then we have,
absolutely. So 2 of the cats that I have, which are foster failures, one of them was found and she was probably about a month old. She was found on a highway. And then the other cat that I had, she was probably about 4 months old when we found her, but she had already been exposed more to the outside world, and she was found at a parking lot at a school. So, and it was kind of funny because I was gonna adopt the smaller kitten. Well, actually, I was gonna just foster the smaller kitten, but then because I saw that the other kitten was a bit more scared of anyone touching her, I figured I was gonna foster her so she can get used to that whole like. She'd get scared if a door got open. Like it was that kind of bad. So, and typically it kind of helps cats to be adopted together or to have another cat with them because it helps them kind of be more calm. So whenever I fostered them, it was a huge change in her character because she went from a timid little kitten to where she felt more comfortable. You know, she didn't jump at every sound. So that was nice. So, and then I adopted them whenever they wanted to get adopted.
website, so like I said, we, you know, got all the links and everything will be down in the description. So we're gonna meet some of our pet,
Yeah, some of our rescues.
yeah. So well, who we're gonna see or
So we're gonna meet.
just so we can have a
So we're gonna meet 3 dogs. You can meet one of our cats as well. So one of our first dog that we're gonna be meeting is Agnes. She has been with us for about half a year. She was brought from the animal shelter, from the Carroll County Animal Shelter. We kind of transferred in from them. She loves toys. She loves to destroy toys, and she loves to run away with toys. So she is a little bit dominant. Whenever she sees another dog, she doesn't go aggressive, but she wants to be the dominant female, which is kind of odd for a female to be that dominant. So it's one of the reasons why we want to make sure that if she gets adopted, it's kind of by herself. But she loves humans. We're not completely sure with males yet because there's more females than males in this clinic. So that's her. And then we have Maple. Maple came from New Jersey. She grew up, ever since she was born, she grew up in a cage. So she is a ball of energy. Once she sees the yard, she just runs in circles everywhere. She's super sweet. She's pit bull mix. And then one of the cats that we'll be showing is Itty. She was surrendered by the owner because the owner couldn't keep her anymore. So we brought her in, and she's a calico, and she's beautiful. She's super sweet. She doesn't like to be held for long periods, but
So that goes back to the cats, being self, you know.
Yeah.
They want to be on their own.
Yeah, they do.
We
yeah.
just their slaves to the cats.
We are. No, but yeah, she's super sweet, and she is all about getting loved on. So.
Cool. So we're gonna meet those.
Yep.
So are we gonna?
So this is Itty Bitty. Like I mentioned, she was surrendered by her owner. She couldn't maintain her, so she ended up being brought here through one of the employees. She's probably been here since Christmas, actually. She was surrendered on Christmas Day. And so she's been here, and she's super sweet, very calm. She does love her toys. We estimate her to be around 5 years old, give or take. And so she's spayed, and she has all of her vaccines.
She's very small. I said she's very used to dogs or whatever, or being.
Yeah, she sees the dogs every day. So she doesn't really. I guess she has touched a dog, I guess. Like a dog has licked her, so she doesn't really react to them as much. It's more of those new environments. And like I said, she likes being held, but just for a certain amount of times. But she loves being fed, so.
She kind of suggests me a little. There she goes.
Takes her a minute, but she loves it.
Yep. I All right, still not gonna be a cat person. All right, that's Edie.
Edie.
Yeah, cool.
This is Agnes. Come here.
Good job.
You smell home?
You gonna want this? Sit. Thank you.
Oh.
She tried to catch it.
Now she wants you to come get it. Come here.
Yeah, she does that.
Wants
She's
you to
like,
chase.
I'm gonna tempt you. She has that's one of the things about Agnes though, is that when she has a toy, she just becomes really calm, you know? Like, she can be on a toy for hours.
She likes that pen.
Yeah, for some reason, and that's something we've noticed, is that we might have all the pens open, but for some reason she just goes to that one. What is it? What is it? Alright. I know, girl. I know. Over here.
So she's showing her very athletic skills.
Yeah, no, she definitely has athletic skills. I took her to a 5K once to see how she would do. She did great. She definitely wanted to outrun me. But that was actually her first time being outside of a facility. Like, that was her first time
And
actually
being around people too.
Yeah, it was actually her first
So
time.
you
being
ran a
at
5K?
And I ran a 5K.
5K is what, 2.5, something like that?
It's 3.2 miles. So it was quite the journey with her. Because that was her first time actually being like at a park. So it was a lot of new smells, a lot of new people, but she did outstanding. She did really good.
And she's a younger dog, is she not?
She
Or-
is. She's about,
Yeah.
I think we had said about 2 years, give or take. So. Are you getting tired yet? But yeah, that's Maple for you. Like I mentioned, her case is she was born in a cage and she grew up in a cage. So whenever she's out here, she gives the best of her. Are you gonna sit? Sit. That's a good girl. Oh. You need to sit. You need to sit down. Sit.
Wow.
You need to sit. You just sat. All right. So it's one of those things that we really appreciate the donation of toys. They actually appreciate the donation of toys for sure. Come here. All right.
Well, we tried to catch Maple. Appreciate y'all watching it, and all the description will be down in the box. And I want to thank Janet, I almost call her Janice, for taking time out of her day to show us around, or give us the history or backstory behind West Georgia Pet Rescue. So y'all ride safe. We'll catch you on the next one where we go try to catch Maple.
It'll be a little bit of work.